Sponsored by True Tech Tools. Quality tools, essential support. TrueTechTools.com.
What's up, YouTube? So I wanted to play with the ZoomLock a little bit, and one of the first things that I did before I found some 1/2-inch pipe to play with was actually crimped this fitting with no pipe in it. So it didn't give the stamp of approval on the crimp, but it did go all the way in, and now it won't actually accept pipe into that fitting. So I thought that I would use the spin swage and see if I could get that fitting to open back up. I think you're probably screwed if you actually had a piece of pipe in there and you ever wanted to get it out. But if you had a fitting that was crimped, the spin swage seemed like it might be a way to get that fitting to be reused again. So that's what we're going to do right now. And I can't hold it still enough to push it in. And I've cut myself a little bit too. So I'm going to grab a pair of channel locks and see if we can do this. Alright, let's try this again. Throw the fitting in the channel locks and fire up the drill. And it doesn't feel like it's going to work. I think if it was going to work, I should be making more progress than I am. So I'd say that that's an unsavable fitting. And honestly, I don't think that the Hillmore swaging device would actually give you any better results. So it seems like, you know, that fitting is done once it's done. And it's hot too. I'm going to set it down. So, what I wanted to try to do was actually do a bad job of crimping this stuff together and see if it would actually hold pressure then. That must not be soft copper at all. Because that went in like butter. Anyway, so we're going to try to do a bad job crimping. And we'll see if it'll hold pressure there. Alright, so when you crimp it, what you're supposed to do is bury the copper all the way up to the dimple there. What we're going to do is stop shy of the dimple and just barely get it to the touching the O-ring. Just see what happens here. We've got the stamp of approval on the collar. It says RLS right there on the fitting, and you can see the O-ring is still there, or still visible. We're going to go ahead and throw the other end of this same pipe into that coupling and bury it all the way. But before we get that far, I'm going to cut it off because that end is boogered. Alright, so that's all the way in. That one's got the stamp of approval. And then next we're actually going to drill a hole in the elbow, or drill a hole in the fitting, and see if we can add a pressure tap. The hole may be a little big. We'll see. I think that'll work. Alright. So we're at about 120 psi with one side properly crimped and connected, and the other side not properly crimped or connected. It is currently 3 o'clock. We'll give it some time, see what the pressure test does, and we'll come back. Well, it's 11 minutes after 3. It's been 11 minutes since we started the pressure test, and we haven't moved. We've got soap bubbles that we put on all the fittings, got nothing out of them. I'll put it back on just to show you. This is the properly crimped side. This is the improperly crimped side. And then I went and checked these as well. And I got no bubbles out of any of the fittings. And of course the pressure didn't change either. So what I'm going to do now is cut open that fitting and just see what it looks like. Again, I showed you the pictures a minute ago, but the just wanted to see what the fitting looks like now. It's going to be pretty much impossible to show you the inside of this from even my phone camera perspective and be able to see it. So you have to take my word for it on the other pictures. It looks like you could have this fitting not properly seated down to the dimple and still maintain a pressure test at least at 120 psi. But how often do guys actually pressure test that much higher? I think it's fairly common to pressure test at about that range. Typically I run my pressure tests higher, but not everybody does. Some people are looking to save on nitrogen pressure testing, so they don't run it as high of pressure. So that's one look at it. I guess I could try to seat another fitting even less into it. I think I was touching the O-ring but not fully seated over the O-ring. And I guess I could try another one that's basically not touching the O-ring at all. We'll try that and see what we get. Yeah, so that one didn't crimp it. Let's see if we can get a picture of that. Anyway, so that one crimped well below the fitting, and it still doesn't want to come out. I'm just going to pinch this end off and solder that closed, and then yeah, let's do that. And then we'll pinch this end. I don't know, we'd call that 104 probably. It's just barely under 105. Alright, so there we found a fault. If it doesn't touch the O-ring at all, we're getting bubbles right there. And then back here where we heated up that nipple to pinch it off without protecting the O-ring, we got bubbles coming out there as well. And the pressure test is falling. We're about what I would call about 101 right now. Alright, the last thing I wanted to try to do is see if I could get this to fail catastrophically by heating it under pressure, just to see how that would go. Looks like the pipe wants to burst before the fitting wants to give way. I can smell burning rubber. So we started with a bulge right here because I was heating that copper up too much, and then ended up with a bulge down there. Really should get better lighting. And interesting, there it is. It looks like the leak was actually on the tip rather than the fitting itself, but I'm sure it wouldn't hold. If the O-ring section is where it's bulged, I'm sure it wouldn't hold pressure at all. Don't know what this proves other than you can really screw up some fittings if you wanted to. But anyway, alright, so I talked to some people on Facebook about some concerns. After having done the original tests, I thought I would try this. So this is the set of fittings that was leaking in the two places because we didn't set them in properly. So what I'm going to go back and do is braze these fittings closed and see if that will resolve a poor connection. I can already smell burning rubber, so I'm pretty sure that this is already a failed project, but I wanted to, I know the camera died a little bit into that, so I wanted to shoot it again. Alright, so the braze works pretty well. I mean, obviously you can fill in a hole with brazing rod, but what we're running into is that definitely blackening the end with the burning rubber, which is obviously not a good thing. So you're definitely getting contamination inside the pipe. So I guess my final thought would be that if you happened to have a poor connection, your only choice is to cut it out and start over. Brazing it closed would probably be a bad thing. as you're going to bake that O-ring. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, and share, and we'll see you on the next video.
Blind man, I see you walking through this cold, cold night. Blind man, your heart is heavy.